So, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to all. Welcome to the Leadership Wisdom Series, CEO Talk Series. I feel extremely happy and honored on behalf of entire Rajalakshmi School of Business family to welcome one of the finest CEOs of our country and one of the finest entrepreneurs of the country, Mr. Pradeep Kashyap. Is the founder and chief executive officer of MART. He is known as the father of rural India, a title bestowed on him by late Professor C.K. Prahlad. He's also known as the father of rural marketing. He is a global thought leader and is a sought after speaker, having given over 500 plus talks across the globe, including 3 talks on TED. He worked for more than 20 years with multinational companies before starting MART as a business mind social heart consultancy organization. He has been marketing advisor to Ministry of Rural Development and has served on Prime Minister Office and Chief Minister Committees on Rural Development. He is a World Bank and United Nations consultant and member of advisory committees of Reserve Bank of India and National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. He has advised dozens of multinational companies such as Pepsi, GE, Philips, Intel, and more. He has authored the most definitive rural marketing book, a standard text at premier MBA institutes. He has also given talks at Cannes Lion 2008, France, University of Cambridge, and London Business School, UK, and University of Illinois, Chicago, USA as well. He has created the world famous Project Sakti with Hindustan Unilever case study at Harvard to appoint 60,000 poor women as company dealers. He has pioneered many sustainable business and marketing models such as inclusive marketing, public-private community partnerships, and last mile distribution models with Colgate, Tata Steel, Novartis, etc. He has helped generate additional income for 2 lakh poor women by reaching their produce to bigger markets. He has many awards, to name few. Lifetime Achievement Award 2013 by Rural Marketing Association of India, Distinguished Alumnus Award 2014 from his alma mater BITS Pilani, Jamanal Bajaj Award 1991 for outstanding contribution to rural development. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor and proud privilege to introduce one of the finest personalities we have in the country, Mr. Pradeep Kashyap, founder and CEO MART, the father of rural marketing. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Swain, for that very long introduction. You know, every time I hear such an introduction, I wonder who he's talking about. But I am delighted to be here with young minds, because I find that at my age now, one is losing the initiative to think of new things. So I think the future obviously belongs to the younger generation. What I would request all of you is to sit back and listen to my stories. I have no hardcore gyan to give you. I have only 50 years of experience, so I'm going to be talking entirely from my own experience. And at every stage, I'll be sharing a lesson that we can learn from what I have been through, which could help you to charter the course of your life. Okay. So let me start by sharing a secret with you. You know, throughout my school life, I never got on to the school stage. I was terrible at academics. I was no good at sports. I had never debated. I had never taken part in any drama. So I did not have any prize or awards or any, even a certificate of appreciation or participation. So that was the life at school. And the same sad story was repeated in college at BITS. The 5 years that I was there, I never got onto the auditorium stage. Right? Again, no good at academics, nothing at sports, nothing really to talk about. And you won't believe it, I got onto the bid stage 50 years. Yes, 50 years after I had joined BITS, when I was honored with the Distinguished Alumnus Award. So that was the first time that I've got onto the BITS stage. So therefore, uh, the first lesson, or let me just add to this, that I then started my career with a multinational in Calcutta, Excite Batteries. It was then a British company. And then I went on to work with Excite for 7 years, then Bosch another 7 years, and then Denso, which is the world's largest auto ancillary, for another 3 years. So for 17 years, I worked with multinationals. And if you ask me what was my performance, I would say it was good, but it was not outstanding. So that streak of no great achievement continued from school to college and from college uh, to my work life. It was, I was getting restless around the time that I was turning 40 because I felt that I had not achieved anything in life. And I was having a kind of a hollow feeling in my system that where am I headed? It was around the same time that I met my spiritual guru. And as they say in Hindu scriptures, that when you are ready, the guru appears. So my spiritual guru, who was a very enlightened soul, I met him and I had a number of discussions with him. And I asked him that, what is my purpose in life? I'm already nearing 40 and I have not achieved anything. So after some rounds of discussions, he said that your purpose in life seems to be to help improve the quality of life of the poor. Because when you serve the poor, in that process, you forget about yourself. And when you forget about yourself, and the mind goes quiet, that is the only possible way to get enlightenment or to seek liberation. So he said, that seems to be your route. So, as disciples are, they are always listening to the guru. So the year I turned 40, with the blessings of my guru, I voluntarily opted out of this multinational job with the Japanese company where I was head of marketing and tipped to be the CEO in a year or two. And the promoters of the company, the DCM group and Toyota from Japan, they were very surprised that here is a guy who's doing decently well, and why does he want to leave? So, and the Japanese couldn't understand what the spiritual journey was all about. So that was the start. Okay, and as the story proceeds, you will realize that the doors of opportunity kept opening for me. And what I have achieved in life, when I look back in the second half of my life, that means in the last 30 years, is perhaps 100 or 1,000 times more than what I had achieved in the first 40 years. Okay? So the first lesson that I learned is that nothing ventured, nothing gained. See, the problem with most of us is that we want to stay close to our comfort zone. So I understand this, so I want to work here only. Okay? But you don't really achieve anything very significant unless you really don't go down the beaten track. You create your own track, right? Then you're a pioneer. And when you're a pioneer, then you will discover gold because nobody has been on that track and gold is lying all over. So that was the lesson one, that nothing ventured, nothing gained. The second lesson was that some of us are late bloomers. So I could have easily written off my life by the time I was 40 because I was not achieving anything very significant. But now when I look back, I realized that I actually started blossoming at age 40. It should have happened in school. It never happened. It should have happened in college. It didn't happen. Even in the jobs, it never happened because I was never very serious as a student. I should take things in a very light way. But when I got this message from my spiritual guru, that if you want to follow your purpose, then you have to be true and honest to what you're doing. And therefore you have to serve the poor with your heart and your mind. Okay. And honestly speaking, since that day, I have been doing it. And when I've been doing it, then I've been, as I told you, I mean, doors of opportunity have opened automatically on their own. And over these 30 years, it is difficult for me to get across to you or to convince you that every single day I have felt the hand of God behind me, because He has been directing me what needs to be done next. So the other thing that you have to remember as young people is that each one of us has a place in the sun, has a unique place in the sun. Okay? Because remember one thing, and these are my words, that God never creates duplicates. God never creates people who have no purpose. You know, why would He send them to the earth when people have no purpose? So now when I look back, I realize that all of us have a purpose. The only difference being that most of us, 99.9% of us, will live through life and never realize our purpose. But when we do, or those of us who are fortunate to do, then it is like a glider which is flying in the sky and it suddenly catches an air current. And when it catches an air current, it just goes up and up and up. Right? So that is the power of your purpose. Okay? So these are the first major lessons. Now, so my story proceeds now. I have opted out of the corporate sector. As I told you, the year I turned 40. I joined a large NGO. And a few months down the road, the president of the NGO was invited to make a presentation on low-cost housing in a workshop organized by the government of India in Bhubaneswar. So, Mr. Swan, your place, right? And my president said to me, he says, you know, why don't you also come along with me? Because after all, you have 20 years experience behind you. It may not be in low-cost housing, it must be. My experience was entirely in the auto sector. But he requested me and I went along with him. And the minute we arrived in Bhubaneswar, he got a call from Delhi saying that he must return immediately. He must take the next flight back because he had given a proposal for a very big project. And for that, the World Bank team had come to Delhi and they wanted to meet him the next day. So what he did was, you know, those days we used to have those 35 mm transparency slides. Some of you may have seen them in the museum, but you would not have used them. So the president came into my room and he said, look, Pradeep, I have to go back to Delhi. So I am handing over this slide deck to you and you please make the presentation. I said, I don't even know the spelling of mud housing. So, I mean, I'm an engineer. I come from a hardcore automobile sector. So he says, no, you're a marketing guy and you speak very well. So you'll be able to make a presentation. And he says, I will sit with you and I will tell you for each slide what you need to say. So I made a note for each slide what had to be said. And all night I was rattling it. I was memorizing it. You know, slide by slide, I was repeating because I didn't know anything. So next day, all the state science and technology secretaries, not joint secretaries, secretaries were attending this workshop. And there I was making this presentation. But I showed the courage. I said, look, nobody in this sector knows me. So if I fail, it doesn't make a difference because nobody out of this group will ever meet me again because they are very senior people. So I just went all out and made this presentation. And after the presentation, there was a tea break, and the Joint Secretary, Rural Development Ministry, walked up to me and he says, Mr. Kashyap, that was a brilliant presentation. So I thought, okay, he's pulling my leg. So I said, Pakadega. So I immediately confessed to him. I said, sir, I don't know a word about what I said. I had only uttered it and I vomited it out. So he said, oh, but you spoke very well with so much confidence. So whatever it was, then he said to me, but what is your expertise? I said, my expertise is marketing. So he says, my God, the Ministry of Rural Development has been looking for a marketing advisor. Here is my card. Please come and meet me tomorrow, okay, in Delhi. So I went and met him, and he immediately offered me the assignment. He says, we'll sign a 2-year contract with you. You will be the advisor to the ministry. That means to the central ministry, to the whole country. So I said, this is a fantastic opportunity. The only catch was, he said, because we are a government organization or a government department, the salary that he offered, or a consultancy, on a daily basis, was exactly 10% of my last drawn salary. So I was in a dilemma. I have a family to support. Okay, I've given up a high-paying corporate job, and here I'm being offered just 10% of my salary, my last drawn salary. So how will I meet my expenses? So I said to myself, I said, okay, this is one negative. It is the obvious negative. Let me see what are the positives. So I said the first positive is that because I will be a representative of the government of India, people will get to know me very quickly. And this is what happened, that every committee in India, as Dr. Swain said, every committee in India, starting from the Reserve Bank to NABARD, to SIDBI, to the Khadi Commission, okay, to the Ministry of Rural Development, I was nominated as the government representative on these committees. Right? So in no time, the senior bureaucracy got to know me because I was interacting with them at that level. Then I started organizing Gram Shri Melas. These are sales exhibitions for rural products. And I organized 300 of these exhibitions over a 10-year period. So most of the NGOs who participated in these events, they got to know me. So I served for 2 years. Within 2 years, everybody got to know me. So the first advantage was from nobody knowing me when I went to Bhubaneswar to everybody in the sector knowing me within a period of 2 years. That was the first big gain. The second big gain was that when I started MART, I'll come to that story also. When I started MART as a new organization and we started bidding for projects and assignments, we got them very easily because everybody said, oh, Mr. Kashyap, we know because we are on the same committee, or we met him here, or we met him there. Okay? So at the end of it, believe you me, whatever consultancy they gave me per day, when I retired 30 years later, my consulting rate was 1,000 times, not 1,000%, 1,000 times higher than what the government had offered me. So whatever money I lost in 2 years in charging a very low consultancy, I made it up more than anything. And I became the highest paid consultant in the development sector and the social sector in the country. So nothing to brag about, but what I'm saying is that the lesson here is that sometimes in life, you have to lose temporarily to win permanently. This is a very deep thought. You have to recognize this, that, you see, God throws these challenges at you. And if you take up the challenge, then you're a winner. If you run away, the obvious thing to do was to run away from the challenge. That am I mad? Why should I accept 10% of my last drawn salary? But I calculated all the positives and negatives, and I found that in the long run, I would be much beneficial. So that was the next lesson. Okay. Then, I was crisscrossing the country, as I told you, when I was appointed as the advisor. Then naturally, I was going to every state, meeting the state secretaries and going out in the field. And I came across these village markets, footpath markets, arts, or flea markets, whatever name you call them, periodic markets. And you may have seen some big markets in Odisha, because Odisha has a lot of these footpath markets. But in UP, I saw markets which had over 1,000 stalls, 1,000 stalls on the ground and spread over a couple of acres. Okay? So when I came back to Delhi, I went to the ministry office and I said, this seems to be a great potential for selling rural products through these arts. Okay? Otherwise, how do we sell these products? So everybody said, no, forget these arts. These are no good. These are just 10, 20 stalls that come up on once a week on the ground, and they basically sell vegetables, nothing else. I said, that is not true. I have seen all over the country, these big arts. Then I went to NABARD, the National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, because the funding comes under them. And they told me the same thing, that no, arts have no potential. So I came back and I managed to convince the Additional Secretary, Rural Development, Government of India, to sanction me a project to study arts. So our team studied arts in 1994 and 95, and we have come out with a very detailed report. It's the first report in India on weekly markets. There are 42,000 weekly markets. 25% of all sales in rural India take place through these arts. Okay, and yet the Government of India, NABARD, RBI, KVIC, all of them deny that there is anything there. So when we came out with the report, I then went to the census office and I said, you are recording, everything else, nearest market and this and that, but you don't include arts. They said, oh, there is no potential in arts. I managed to convince the Census of India, and since that year, they have been doing a census of all arts in India. Okay? So the point I want to make here is that you don't have to be a large group to influence policy. You can be an individual, but if you are convinced and if you have the knowledge, then you can bring about change and you can move mountains, and the mountains being the government departments. So I managed to move the government departments. The Census of India has included arts in their recording. NABARD, based on my number of discussions with them, they agreed to announce a scheme to upgrade these arts by providing platforms and by shelters, roof covering and things like that. So these arts today are much more modern. They are moving from retail to wholesale. So there are many, many benefits out of it. So I'm just giving you this example. So have the self-confidence that you have the power to change things. Because we always make an excuse, what can I do? I'm alone. But if you're alone and if you're convinced, you can really change the world. Okay. Now we come to the next part of the story. So we started MART, and MART is one of the first organizations based on family values. Okay? And Professor Ishwar Dayal, who is the doyen of management education, who was a founding member of IIM Ahmedabad, who was a founding member of IIM Calcutta, he was the first director of IIM Lucknow, founding director. So when he sat through a presentation that I was making on MART, he was so excited. He said, I'm 90 years old and I've been talking about family-based organizations for the last 40 years, but it's been in theory. I have never come across an organization with family values, and yours is the first organization. So at the age of 90, he used to come to our office on a wheelchair, and he has written a case on MART as an endearing organization, which has been taught at IIM Lucknow, IIM Ahmedabad, and other places. So, therefore, and we brought in a concept of lifelong employment, right, by giving shares to employees. So my whole vision was that in another 10 years' time, everybody would become a co-owner by the organization granting some shares to everyone. Okay, and already we've got about 10 people who have become co-owners. So I have, offloaded my shares without charging them anything, so that they have become co-owners. Okay? So this is and I've given a TED talk on MART and endearing organization, and it was well received. So, and we hired all professionals, all our team was from small places. Nobody from a big IIM or from any major management institute, plus all of them from small towns. And you all know the Dhoni effect ever since Dhoni became the captain of India cricket team. So people coming from small towns now have a lot more confidence that if Dhoni can do it, I can also do it. So the same way in MART, we have hired people only from small towns. Okay? So, but today, people like Ramesh, whom you know, Dr. Swain, he now makes presentations to the World Bank, to the UN, not only in India, but all over the globe. And he's from a small town. Okay. So the point I want to make and prove to the world is that you don't have to be an IIM from an IIM to be a very good management professional. You can be from any small place. And if I may add, I have never studied management. I have not been to a business school. And yet, MART was giving consultancy to Unilever, the best known FMCG company in India. MART was giving consultancy to GE Healthcare, the largest healthcare company in the world, and many more. So what you have to remember is that don't ever feel self-pity that, oh, I didn't make it to an IIM, so I have no future. Your future is in your hands. This is only an excuse. Okay? For some time, people will resist you. When I came into this sector, I was met with a lot of resistance because the NGO said he's not from an IRMA, he's not from XIM, he's not from XISS. So what does he know about development? Okay? When I became the marketing advisor, the bureaucrats refused to recognize me or accept me because they said, are you IAS? I said, I'm not IAS. Oh, then we are not interested in you. The academic world from where you come, Dr. Swain, I have written the standard text on rural marketing. I have taught a full course at IRMA and at XIM, but the academic world did not accept me. Why? Because I'm not a regular teacher. I don't have a PhD. But is a PhD more important or knowledge is more important? Right? So the point I want to make here is that don't ever feel disheartened that you couldn't make it to an IIM. If you look at some of those CEOs, Indian CEOs globally, you'll find they're not from IIMs. They're from all kinds of institutions. And many of them are just engineers, they're not even MBAs. Okay, so yeah. Okay, then the other thing, now the next lesson is that when you work for a higher purpose, and what is the higher purpose? To improve the quality of life of the poor. MART's focus for the last 25 years has been that only. And that's why we have created employment for 200,000 people. Okay? So the lesson is, when you work for a higher purpose, then even ordinary people like me can make an extraordinary result. We can achieve extraordinary results. Okay? So that is what you have to remember. Okay. Then the next lesson, when we were doing Project Shakti with Unilever, most of my friends in the sector, ridiculed me, and they said that, "Arey Pradeep, you are known to do such good work. What are you toying around? This is like a toy you are playing with. Yeah? There's no business model here. So how can poor women become dealers for Unilever, the world's largest, one of the largest food companies and FMCG companies?" So I again said the same thing: nothing ventured, nothing gained. I said, at best, we will lose. We will not be able to create a business model, but at least give it a try. And we gave it a try. We have created 60,000 women as entrepreneurs. It is a Harvard business case study, okay, taught all over the world. And today, MART is known globally because of Project Shakti. So if we had not taken up Project Shakti, we would be half our size and we would not have the confidence to do many more such innovations. So remember that pioneers are always ridiculed. It's only when they prove themselves, then you start taking them seriously, right? But pioneers must carry forward nonetheless, because they have to create their own path. Okay? Okay, then, yeah. Yeah, then I've already mentioned to you that, I was always treated as an outsider. So when I went to DPS and I didn't go to a Doon school or a Mayo College. Okay, I went to BITS, no IIT. I didn't, I haven't been to a B school, and I have no FMCG experience. But we ended up giving consultancy to the best and the biggest companies. And incidentally, I could compare our list of clients with McKinsey's list of clients in India. And I take pride in saying that because our people are from small towns, from small institutes, whereas McKinsey's are from Harvard Business School and from IIM Ahmedabad and whatever else. So if we are able to get the same kind of clients, it shows that we can deliver the same quality of work and results. It is just that we have been denied that opportunity. Okay? Because there is a bias that if you're from an IIM, then you will do good work. You will give us a good business model. But if you're from a small institute, you will not be able to do it. But that's not true at all. Okay. Okay. Then, yeah. Now, when I started working in the rural sector, I realized that there was very little knowledge on rural. And I'm talking of 30 years back when I started in 1989, so 32 years back. There was no data on rural markets, as I told you about hearts and other things. And generally, nobody had any knowledge. So when I wrote the textbook in 2005, we had to create all the knowledge. There's no textbook before that. Yeah. So, and how did we do the book? Because I told you that I have not studied in a business school. And in any case, there was no book. On the other hand, Philip Kotler's book on marketing management, it has borrowed a chapter on rural marketing from my book with permission. Okay, so you'll realize that we were struggling in the dark, but what I have used is nothing but common sense. And I've always believed that if you have common sense, you can understand and create the best solutions. Yeah. Somehow common sense is underplayed in the corporate world. But to me, I have not learned anything. I've learned everything from myself by talking to rural women, understanding their lives, talking to farmers, understanding how they live and what are their problems and what do they need. So remember one thing, that you must cultivate your common sense. People ask me, what did you learn in engineering? I always say I don't remember even any subject. It is 50 years back. So how can I remember what subjects I had? And even then I told you I was not a serious student, so I used to bunk classes most of the time. But what I did learn was common sense, that if one gear is rotating in the clockwise direction and you connect another gear, it has to rotate in the anti-clockwise direction, right? So that's a common sense thing. Okay, so I now come to the next one. You know, what I have experienced is that humility is the hallmark of true leaders. And I've experienced this personally. My first experience was with the great J.R.D. Tata. He was the chairman of a trust, the Bharatiya Yuva Shakti Trust, which was being run by the President of India, Venkatraman, his daughter. She was running a trust. And this was run from CII. So JRD was the chairman and I was the advisor. So at one time, BBC decided to do a story on the Bharatiya Yuva Shakti Trust, which was to create employment for the poor. And the interviewer, he invited JRD to, in the room, he invited JRD to give his interview. And JRD Tata looked at me and he says, Pradeep, you go first. I said, sir, how can I go first? I'm in front of you. Who can ever go first? He said, no, I am only a, nominal chairperson or chairman. I have not done anything. All the work has been done by Lakshmi, that is the president's daughter, and you. So you go first because you're the advisor and you've given us some ideas. So I said, just no way. But he stood his ground and he said, please. So that was his humility. I mean, a man who's known all over the world and who has run an organization or a group of companies in a way which is, almost regarded as the ultimate in management. Similarly, we were having our advisory board meeting in NABARD, okay? And if I give you the names around, so we had the Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank, we had the Chairman of NABARD, we had the Chairman of Khadi Commission, we had Ila Bhatt, the person of Seva in Ahmedabad, and myself. So I was the most unknown face there, naturally. I mean, nobody knew me. But at the end of the meeting, the Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank, Mr. D.R. Mehta, he walked up to me across the big table. It used to be a long boardroom table. He came across and he said, Mr. Kashyap, you had some very good ideas on marketing. Would you have the time to meet me this afternoon at 4 o'clock? This is the Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank saying, would you have the time? I said, sir, I have come only for this meeting. I'm free till my flight in the evening. He says, okay, so can you come to my office at 4 o'clock? Sure. He sent a car from the Reserve Bank to NABARD. He had somebody waiting at the main gate. And when I walked into his room on the 23rd floor, believe me, it was like the skating rink. It was huge. Okay? So that was the second experience I had on humility. The third was with Ila Bhatt. And there are many more. I'm just giving you some examples. Ila Bhatt of Seva. See, I was absolutely new to the sector. I had just walked into the sector 2 months earlier. And I had organized a training program on marketing of rural products at IRMA, okay, the Institute of Rural Management. And when I was about to start the session, there were 20 participants. And one of the participants got up and walked up to me and whispered in my ears that, sir, Ila Ben is also here sitting in the audience as a participant. So could you please call her on stage? So I said, of course, right? I didn't know Ila Ben, but the way he said it, I knew she was somebody important. So I walked up to her and I said, Ila Ben, please come on the stage. Her answer, and this I'm talking of 30 years back, she said to me, she says, Pradeep bhai, मैं तो यहाँ पे मार्केटिंग सीखने आई हूँ, एंड बाकी ये 20 लोग भी सीखने आए हैं आपसे, तो मैं तो वहीं बैठूंगी जहाँ मेरी जगह है. And she participated for 3 full days. And she was the first one to come into the training hall, and she was the last one to leave every evening. But then she used to go home because she lived in Ahmedabad only, where this training was being held. And when I got to know about her, then I realized that she is a Padma Bhushan. Okay, she's a Magsaysay Award winner. She's got the cross, Nobel Cross of France. And Hillary Clinton says that she's my guru. This is what she says about Elaben. She's my great friend from whom I've learned a lot. So every time Hillary Clinton came to India, she made it a point to meet Elaben. So these are people who have achieved the highest pinnacles in life, okay? But they have retained their humility. And this is this is the next lesson, that humility is the true hallmark of leaders, of true leaders. And I've always said to my team members that the easiest way to acquire knowledge is that when you meet somebody with higher knowledge, then imagine that you have a pipe running from your head, which is your tank, to that person's tank, which is his or her head. Okay, and the tank is really but full of knowledge, and your tank, you must say, my tank is empty, because only when your tank is empty can water flow from a higher level to a lower level. Okay, and knowledge gets downloaded automatically. You don't have to make any effort. So if I'm sitting with Dr. Swine and if he is an expert in a field, I will just listen to him and automatically I will get the knowledge. Right? So we should always be humble, because the minute I say I have the knowledge, that means we are not learning anymore. We have sealed off that pipe and we've said, I've got enough knowledge, I don't need your water. Okay? So remember that knowledge is something that is for free. Okay. Yeah, then how much time? Do we have any more time? Because I was thinking we'll do it for 40 minutes and then the last 20 minutes we can have question answers. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay, so we are about there. But I will just conclude this then, that so if you just summarize, the first thing is that you have to venture out. See, you have to learn to take the risk. Only then you will achieve something in life. Yeah. The second is that you have to show the courage, and only then you get new opportunities. The example of my becoming the marketing advisor, that I showed the courage that I will accept this and do it. Self-belief, when I talked about hearts, I was convinced this was a very big opportunity. But the government kept putting me off, saying, कुछ नहीं है, time मत waste करिए अपना, ये तो ऐसे ही फुटपाथ पे 10 दुकानें लग जाती हैं, right? And the report showed that the average number of stalls is 800. It shows that the average sale per heart per day is 2.5 lakh rupees. So the total sale through hearts is about 50,000 crore rupees annually. So yeah, then I mentioned that as an outsider, you have to make much more effort to be accepted. Yeah. So because all of us like-minded people. So ये मेरे school का है, मेरे college का है, मेरे profession का है. But when you are from not one of them, then you have to make much greater effort to be accepted. Because only when they feel, acha, this man has given us some very unique knowledge or unique idea, so we can accept it. So that has been my story. 30 years, I've had to struggle because I was hardly ever being accepted. But now when I look back, I thank all these people who resisted me, because it helped me to push my knowledge. And, today one is sitting on a reasonable amount of knowledge. So it happened because of these circumstances. Yeah, and then whenever a challenge comes up, So like writing the rural marketing book, it was a huge challenge. I've never written a book before or after. I didn't have any knowledge on rural marketing. Okay, there was no existing knowledge, but one took up the courage, and today the rural marketing book is very well accepted because it is all practical experience. I don't know any theory, so how could I write any theory in the book? So I have only written what MART has done in terms of projects and field work and learnings from there. Right? So these are some of the lessons that one can learn. There are more, but I just wanted to get you excited and interested in looking at it from a different perspective. So I've tried to give you a much broader perspective so that it can help you, decide the course of your life and the direction you want to take. Right. So thank you very much for a patient hearing. I'd be very happy to get into a discussion mode and a conversation. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. I mean, it's always an honor to listen to you. You are an encyclopedia of rural marketing, father of rural marketing. So, guys, like I remember his book. I mean, one of the fantastic books we have in the education sector. Anybody who is trying to understand the rural sector or rural economy, I think that is the book you should read. Grab it right now.